Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Chenny Wu. Here are today's top stories. Ghislaine Maxwell is found guilty of 5 sex trafficking charges. She could face a maximum of 65 years in prison. The number of children in the hospital with COVID-19 is increasing, but are they being hospitalized because of the virus? The CDC director says many COVID-positive children are actually being admitted for unrelated reasons. In the southern Chinese region of Guangxi, it looked like a scene from the Cultural Revolution. The police paraded 4 people through the streets displaying large photos of themselves. Critics are warning of the danger of another cultural revolution. A Christian boarding school's doctor is arrested and charged with child sex crimes. The Missouri Attorney General alleges that some of the victims were younger than 14. A virtual reality gaming company in California is switching gears to help prevent veteran suicide. They turn tests into games to help veterans with PTSD. The jury has reached a verdict in the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. She was found guilty of recruiting teenage girls to be sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein. Here are the details.
Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted today of 5 out of 6 sex trafficking charges. 1, conspiracy to entice a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. 2, conspiracy to transport a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. 3, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. 4, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors. And 5, sex trafficking of minors. She was found not guilty of 1 count of enticing a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. After a month-long trial, jurors deliberated for 5 full days before finding Maxwell guilty on the 5 counts. She faces up to 65 years in prison.
The number of children in hospitals with COVID-19 is increasing. But does this mean more children are being hospitalized because of the virus? According to the CDC director, many COVID-positive children are actually being admitted for other reasons. NTD's Grace Coulter has that and more on the pandemic.
The number of children in the hospital with COVID-19 is rising, but during a Wednesday interview on MSNBC, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said many of the hospitalizations are not related to the virus.
Many of them are actually coming in for another reason, but they happen to be tested when they come in and they're found incidentally to have COVID.
Walensky noted that the high number of child hospitalizations is common for this time of the year, adding that most children don't require treatment in the intensive care unit. Dr. Paul Offit observes similar phenomenon in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where he works as the director of the Vaccine Education Center. He told NBC's Today Show Tuesday, "We test anybody who's admitted to the hospital for whatever reason to see whether or not they have COVID. And we're definitely seeing an increase in cases. However, we're really not seeing an increase in children who are hospitalized for COVID or in the intensive care unit for COVID." In another Wednesday interview, Walensky explained why the updated CDC guidelines don't require testing at the end of isolation. She told Good Morning America it's because the PCR test can stay positive for up to 12 weeks after infection.
Now, the question of why we didn't include a test there is simply because we know that PCRs can stay positive for up to 12 weeks. So we would have people in isolation for a very long time if we were relying on PCRs.
Last year, South Korea's infectious disease experts said PCR tests can give false positives because they cannot distinguish whether the virus is alive or dead. This was after 260 people tested positive again after making full recoveries. And while PCR tests may be overly sensitive, rapid antigen tests may have the opposite problem when it comes to the Omicron variant. The FDA said Tuesday that according to new data, rapid antigen tests may be less sensitive to Omicron. In light of this, Walensky suggests getting a PCR test if you have COVID symptoms, even if your rapid antigen test is negative. A Wednesday Reuters tally shows virus cases in the U.S. hitting a record high, an average of more than 258,000 daily cases over the past 7 days. But during a White House press briefing Wednesday, Walensky said that despite the record surge, hospitalizations are relatively lower than previous waves. Data from other countries shows Omicron presents less severe disease and lower hospitalization rates. Meanwhile, the CDC director maintains it's too early to tell. Grace Coulter, NTD News, New York.
500 million at-home COVID tests could soon be ready to distribute to Americans nationwide. The White House said today that a purchasing contract should be ready late next week. This comes amid an increasing demand for tests due to the holiday season. White House COVID-19 Response Director Jeff Zients said the Departments of Defense and HHS are working to expedite test distribution. The first delivery from manufacturers is expected in January. Americans will be able to get the test free of charge through a new government website. The move comes as the Biden administration faces pressure for its pandemic response, specifically over the lack of available tests and recent disruptions to holiday travel. Zients addressed these concerns by pointing to the administration's efforts to ease testing shortages through federally run testing sites. In a city in southern China, authorities parade a group of suspects in public with their pictures hanging from their necks. Many say this is similar to the public humiliation sessions in the Cultural Revolution. Here are the details.
A recent video shows 4 people in hazmat suits being paraded in public. There were large pictures of themselves hanging from their necks. It happened in the city of Jingxi in Guangxi province. The city is on the border with Vietnam. The 4 suspects are accused of smuggling people across the border. One of the people that were smuggled into China allegedly tested positive for the CCP virus. NTD China Affairs analyst Tang Jingyuan says what we see here used to be one of the most iconic forms of punishment during the Cultural Revolution.
That's a way to provoke people to struggle with each other. We see that there are very big reactions to this video. That's because it triggered people's memories of the horrors of the past.
Former communist leader Mao Zedong launched the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s. The movement damaged China's economy and traditional culture. Historians estimate that as many as 20 million people have died from it. Most of them were elites of society. The movement didn't end until Mao died in 1976. Video footage from the city in Guangxi also shows the suspects being transported in a truck that moves pigs. But according to Chinese law, it has been illegal to parade suspects in public since 1988.
This is a typical organized event. The local government takes the lead, and the Public Security Bureau carries it out. Why are they doing that? They want to humiliate the suspects in this way. And by doing so, the authorities showcase what they call the rule of law and send out a warning to other people.
Video footage shows the 4 people being escorted to an open field and surrounded by armed police. There was a crowd of onlookers. Former Chinese human rights lawyer Wu Xiaoping says this goes against the rule of law and it ruins a person's dignity. Tang says such a scene may signal a second cultural revolution. The Chinese language edition of NTD asked the local authorities for comment. They say they weren't aware about the situation.
President Biden will have a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin tomorrow. This comes amid rising tensions over Russia's military buildup on its border with Ukraine. The White House says the 2 leaders will discuss a range of topics, including upcoming diplomatic engagements with Russia. A Biden administration official says Putin requested the call. Russia has stationed around 100,000 troops on its borders with Ukraine. Intelligence officials are concerned that Russia could launch an attack there in the next few weeks. Biden warned Putin against such an attack earlier this month, and Putin issued a similar warning for NATO forces not to expand into Ukraine. The White House says Biden is coordinating a common approach with European allies to respond to Russia's military buildup. The longtime doctor of a Christian boarding school in Missouri has been captured and taken into custody. He's accused of several child sex crimes. NTD's Miguel Moreno has an overview of what's happened.
Law enforcement captured Dr. David Smock on Tuesday night. Missouri's Attorney General has charged the 57-year-old with a total of 8 counts. Smock is accused of molesting, sodomizing, and stalking children. 4 of the sodomy charges involved children younger than 14. I did some digging on Facebook and found that the doctor has worked at Agape boarding school since at least 2013. Smock is in custody, but we don't know whether he's still employed by Agape. We called the boarding school, but they haven't followed up with us. A post on the school's Facebook page indicates that Smock worked there last year. Agape is a nonprofit Christian boarding school that says it helps out-of-control boys get back on track, enrolling boys 12 to 17. In a statement, Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt said, "The details of the alleged crimes in this case are shocking and horrific, and I look forward to working with the special prosecutor for Cedar County to obtain justice in this case." These aren't the first allegations made against staff at Agape. 5 other school employees were charged with a total of 13 counts of felony assault this year in September. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The National Labor Relations Board seizes ballots in a union vote at Exxon Mobil. Workers at an Exxon oil refinery in Texas are deciding whether to break from a union. The United Steelworkers Union, or USW, alleges that Exxon barred workers from the plant in order to break the union. USW filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board. According to an Exxon spokesperson, the board has impounded the ballots while it investigates the allegations, and the ballots will not be counted until further notice. Earlier this year, the company and the union have been trying to negotiate a new contract, but failed. Exxon then locked union members out of the Texas plant. The company says the workers will be allowed back in only if they vote to oust the union. Exxon says it did not break any laws. A California tech company switched from gaming to focusing on preventing veteran suicide. NTD's Eileen Eng hears more from the co-founder about how it works.
Founded in 2016, 2B3D started out as a VR metaverse gaming company. One of the co-founders recently returned from Afghanistan, serving as a combat medic. His childhood friend and co-founder, Robert Bell, decided to combine virtual reality to help him recover from PTSD. Their company is working on creating a headset that veterans can use when they feel PTSD kicking in.
What we're doing is we're taking already successful tests, and what we're doing is we're gamifying them. We're making mini games where the actual test is happening, but in a gaming style. So research has shown already that VR is very successful for helping PTSD, but we're taking the most successful tests that are already working and we're putting them into games.
According to Bell, the mini-games target the neurovascular couplings in the brain to increase blood flow to the damaged part of the brain. Some tests ask a person to look at certain lights in certain directions.
You needed to look at a red light twice inside the doctor's office and then look down at a green light. We're taking that and we're bringing it into as a game. It might be a laser, that's coming at you or something like that.
The users can also immerse themselves in a more soothing scene like mountains or the beach. The developers also plan to have group therapy with other veterans who have been through similar experiences. They are looking to get it at a fraction of the cost of other treatment options.
There will also be direct access to mental health care providers, and all of this can be done from their home room.
They partnered with Forge Forward Project, a veteran-owned and operated nonprofit that uses virtual reality technology to end veteran suicide. According to an annual report from the Office of Mental Health and Suicide Prevention, the average number of veteran suicides per day was 17.2 in 2019, a 4.5% increase from 2001. 2B3D plans to have the first test ready within the next 3 months. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Overall crime rates in Chicago are up this year, and police funding is also down for the first time in 5 years. Area residents took to the streets calling for action against the uptick after the murder of a local elderly man.
Residents of Chicago's Chinatown took to the streets demanding for action against increasing crime after the killing of a 71-year-old man named Wu Xinxie. Xie was shot in broad daylight across from a school while the suspect had no apparent motive. According to Chicago Police Department statistics published on December 27th, the 9th Police District, where Chinatown is located, has seen an overall increase in crime rates. Murders more than doubled since 2019, but are lower than the 2017 total of 52. Robbery and motor vehicle theft also increased from last year. Compared to 2020, overall crime rates increased by 9%, while citywide crime increased by 3%. For years when police funding increased during the last 5 years, overall Chicago crime fell. But 2021 saw the police budget shrink for the first time since 2016 by $63 million. This year also saw the first increase in overall crime since 2017.
Coming up, scheduled days off are canceled for NYPD officers over New Year's. This as security needs for Times Square are ramping up and thousands of officers are reportedly calling out sick. And organizers of the Times Square New Year's Eve celebrations held a test run today for an important part of the festivities, Confetti. That and more in just a moment here on NTD News. A new group of New York City police officers just graduated from the police academy. Over 600 new officers will be joining the NYPD to protect and serve the city. NTD's Jason Perry spoke to some family members of the new officers.
612 new police officers attended their graduation ceremony at Madison Square Garden. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio gave some words of encouragement to the recent graduates.
I want to express the thanks of all New Yorkers. We need you. And you're going to find as you go all over the city, people who are so happy.
About face! The new officers are from 44 countries, and as a group, they speak 33 languages. NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea shared some of his experiences with the new graduates.
I think the greatest gift this job has, and I think many of the people sitting behind me would agree, you love coming to work. What more really could you ask for? Not every day, but most days. Yeah, I know. By the way, you're all working Friday.
And later on, they dropped confetti to celebrate the event. Afterwards, we talked to two moms of the new police officers and asked how they felt.
There's no word to describe how I feel. Overwhelmed, very proud. As a cancer survivor, you're always there, and I went through a lot, to make sure he get where he is, never get in trouble, always listen to his mom. V's gonna be a fine officer.
It's like I'm terribly proud and terrified at the same time, but really trusting in the Lord that he's gonna watch over him and the other members of the NYPD to keep them safe as they keep the New Yorkers safe.
And Taslima has a brother and a brother-in-law who are already in the NYPD. She came to celebrate with her other brother who just graduated.
Honestly, I've always felt proud. It doesn't matter what happened in the past couple of months, but it never changed the way I feel toward police. I feel proud, and I feel like this is a very good public servant that they're, providing to the public, and I think that's a very honorable job.
This group of NYPD police officers appear to have graduated right on time to help out with security for New Year's Eve. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
This morning in Times Square, a New Year's Eve test run for confetti. Let's take a look.
What's happening in Times Square?
The organizers of Times Square New Year's Eve celebrations conducted their annual air worthiness test for the confetti that'll be released into the air to usher in 2022. The first try was a bust.
Oh my God, the confetti's going the wrong way! It's going the wrong way, get more! Oh my golly! This is why we test! Come on, confetti!
But luckily, it worked on the second attempt.
Yeah, there we go! That's our Times Square confetti! 22!
Maybe a little too well.
And we're ready for December 31st.
People in Times Square also got to write their New Year's resolutions on the confetti. And for those of you who aren't in New York City, don't worry. You can also submit your resolutions online at the Planet Fitness website, and it'll get turned into confetti for New Year's Eve. The test is one of the final preparations for the New Year's Eve ball drop, when 3,000 pounds of confetti will be released. Viewing areas that would normally accommodate about 58,000 people will be limited to about 15,000 to allow for more distancing. And everyone in attendance must show proof of vaccination and wear a mask.
Happy New Year, we are ready!
Speaking of New Year's gatherings, Las Vegas isn't canceling or scaling back its big plans. The city is expecting more than 300,000 visitors for events including a New Year's Eve fireworks show on the Las Vegas Strip, which was canceled last year due to the pandemic. Thousands of ticket holders are also expected at a multi-stage outdoor music event beneath a canopy light show. It will take place at a downtown casino pedestrian mall called the Fremont Street Experience. On the West Coast, the Rose Parade is an iconic New Year's Day tradition. The Parade of Floats was canceled last year, but is returning in 2022. One float maker in Southern California tells us how his float business is doing this year. NTD's David Lamb reports.
In Irwindale, California, people were prepping for the annual Rose Parade for New Year's Day. It marks the start of the Rose Bowl football game in Southern California. Last year's Rose Parade was canceled because of the pandemic.
I mean, the last time the parade was canceled was back in World War II, 60 years ago.
Estes is the owner and president of Fiesta Parade Floats. He has over 40 years of experience in building floats.
It's certainly been different because of dealing with COVID, restrictions, limitations. First off, even to get back to work, I needed to see how many of my former employees were wanting to come back to work. I mean, they were off work for like a year.
He says his business feels the impact from the pandemic and delay at the harbors.
Because if I need 40,000 of a certain rose, they all need to be the same consistency in color. So if they can't get those, like white roses are very hard to get this year. Another material, straw flowers, was almost non-existent this year.
One person says that Fiesta Parade Floats is contributing 6 out of the many dozens of floats for the parade in Pasadena.
So it's usually a lot busier. We don't get to spread out as much. And but other than that, it's the same idea. We just work together to come up with a finished product.
One person said, even though the floats are beautiful, every single float brings awareness to something more.
Whether it be the importance of reading, for example, with the UPS store, again, with the Donate Life, bringing awareness to the importance of organ donation and so on.
Things are changed and things are just different, but I think a lot of people are ready to get back to more of a normal life.
The Rose Parade's history began in 1890 by the Valley Hunt Club in Pasadena, followed by an afternoon of chariot races, jousting, foot races, and tug of war. People wanted to showcase the colorful flower blooms of the city midwinter. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Apple is issuing some unusually large stock bonuses to certain engineers in an attempt to retain talent, according to a recent report. Bloomberg reported on December 28th that the Silicon Valley tech giant is offering high pay to its employees to stop them from being poached by competitor Meta. The report says that Meta has hired about 100 Apple employees in the previous months. But Apple has also grabbed employees from Facebook's parent company. The bonuses are ranging from $50,000 to $180,000. The shares will vest over a 4-year period, providing an incentive for employees to stay with Apple. Though Apple's shares are up 36% this year, not all engineers received the bonus. The iPhone maker has pushed back its office return deadline and will issue $1,000 to all corporate, retail, and tech support employees. Legendary football coach and broadcaster John Madden has died. The NFL says the 85-year-old passed away unexpectedly Tuesday. Here are some details on his life.
I have never worked a day in my life. I went from player to coach to a broadcaster, and I am the luckiest guy in the world.
Super Bowl winning coach, pioneering broadcaster, video game icon. A larger-than-life personality, John Madden was by any definition a true original. During his 30-year broadcasting career, Madden was widely considered the voice of the National Football League.
You have to attack them with the pass, and you have to attack them deep with the pass.
His passionate way of calling games with unique catchphrases,
Packers came out, they went boom, and they got 10 points.
And a love for using a telestrator helped explain the game to hardcore and casual fans across America. He called NFL games for all 4 major networks, announcing 11 Super Bowls and earning 16 sports Emmys during his time in the broadcast booth. Madden's NFL playing career was short-lived. He was drafted in 1958 by the Philadelphia Eagles, but a knee injury cut it all short. That's when he decided to try his hand at coaching, eventually becoming the youngest head coach in professional football history at the age of 33. In 1977, he led the Oakland Raiders to a Super Bowl victory and is still the franchise's all-time wins leader. Madden was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame for his coaching career in 2006.
Boom!
Boom! Tough actin', Tinactin.
Madden was a television advertiser's dream, becoming the pitch man for numerous brands.
Let me tell you, Ace is a place for me.
In 1988, Madden entered the video game world, lending his voice and name to what's now called Madden NFL.
You know, anything that goes that far, that fast, ought to have dinner and an in-flight movie.
His video game is still the most popular football video game ever, selling more than 100 million copies worldwide. Whether it was his video game, his broadcasting career, or as a Hall of Fame coach, his passion for the game is what will always be remembered.
Some of us think maybe we will be immortal, that we'll live forever, but when you really think about it, we're not going to be. But I say this, through this bust, with these guys, in that hall, we will be forever.
In 2021, the digital world was more embedded in the real world than ever. From cutting-edge cancer research to a 3D printed Michelangelo statue, technology helped to tackle serious as well as everyday problems. NTD's Eddie Atkin takes us through some digital highlights of the year.
I think everyone here knows
COVID-19 travel restrictions brought new challenges and spurred new tech solutions. When a bridesmaid was stuck in the UK and not able to travel to a wedding in Canada, the groom contacted a company that specializes in augmented reality technology. It brought Sarah Reddington to their London studio at 3 a.m. so they could beam her across the Atlantic to speak to bride Brittany.
Ring, ring. London calling. You look so beautiful.
The holographic guest was a complete surprise to the bride.
It was just so special because I actually physically saw her there, although it was just particles. But it was really special, really special.
But technology in 2021 also helped tackle more serious issues. Israeli scientists used a 3D bioprinter to create a replica of a brain tumor using the patient's own tissue. The printed tumor was kept alive for about 2 months, during which the researchers tested it with different cancer drugs.
This is one of the hottest areas in research, in cancer research, also in organ replacement. It's the same rationale. The only difference is that the ones recreating organs actually need to return it into the body. We have no plans to return the cancer tissue to any patient, of course.
Technology also helped the animal world. A Polish veterinary student developed a 3D printing method to produce bespoke prostheses for dogs. Unlike traditional prostheses, they don't need to be surgically attached and are relatively cheap. In the Netherlands, the technology was used to 3D print a bungalow. The 2-bedroomed house was made up of 24 concrete parts that were printed in 120 hours. It complies with all Dutch construction regulations and is being rented by a couple. Technology continues to make its way into the art world. Technicians used 3D printing to recreate an Italian masterpiece. They scanned Michelangelo's David to create a replica for an exhibition in Dubai. A Czech theatre company used virtual reality to connect with its audience. The actors staged the play around a 360-degree camera, which recorded all the action from every angle. Audience members at home with a VR headset felt like they were in the middle of the scene. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Coming up, Walmart could be facing a boycott in China. Users on social media are expressing anger over reports the retailer has stopped selling products from China's Xinjiang region. And Hong Kong's press freedom takes another hit as one of the last pro-democracy news outlets is shut down. That and more when we return.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Oh, hey, doesn't it feel like there's communists everywhere? In fact, the Chinese Communist Party has been subverting America from every angle. So whether it's compromising our politicians, controlling Hollywood, manipulating Wall Street, or infiltrating our schools, they have stopped at nothing to take down America. And I believe that in order for us to not become like China, we need citizens who know the truth. So go on over to getepic.com, stay informed with a subscription to the Epic Times, and you will get instant access to this infographic.
Some users on Chinese social media app Weibo are saying they're going to boycott Walmart. Others say they're going to cancel their Sam's Club memberships. This comes as Chinese state media reports that Sam's Club has stopped selling products from Xinjiang. NTD's Evelyn Lee has the story.
Walmart is the latest Western company to face backlash in China. Online posts appear to show that Walmart had stopped stocking products from China's Xinjiang region. Now the retailer is attracting anger on Chinese social media after netizens shared the posts. Chinese state media The Global Times also reported that Sam's Club, which is the retail warehouse store owned by Walmart, had stopped selling Xinjiang products. Some users on Chinese social media Weibo say they would boycott Walmart. Some say they're going to cancel their Sam's Club memberships. Meanwhile, China's Communist Party's Youth League urged people on social media to boycott Sam's Club stores. The backlash against Walmart came after President Biden signed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act into law. The law bans all imports to the U.S. from the Xinjiang region. That is, unless companies can prove that the imports are free from forced labor. A research by Washington-based think tank Center for Global Policy confirmed last year that more than 500,000 Uyghurs were forced to do labor in Xinjiang. Germany's foreign minister says even though she's a big sports fan, she will not attend China's Winter Olympics. Beijing is slated to host the Winter Games in February, but the sports event has come under international pressure because of the Chinese Communist Party's human rights abuses. The U.S. has already announced a diplomatic boycott. That's by not sending a delegation to the event, although American athletes can still compete in the Games. Australia, Canada, and Britain have also joined the boycott, while Japan and New Zealand took a softer tone on the issue. Japan says it won't send a government delegation, but will instead send officials with ties to the Games. New Zealand has likewise declined to send diplomatic representatives, citing factors including the pandemic.
The latest blow to Hong Kong's press freedoms as police raid the offices of a pro-democracy media outlet and arrest current and former staff. The outlet Stand News is known for publishing voices supportive of the Hong Kong protesters. It announced on its Facebook page it would stop operations immediately, and all of its employees have been terminated. The outlet posted a video of police arriving at the deputy assignment editor's home. NTD's Jane Worrell has more.
One of the last pro-democracy news outlets in Hong Kong, Stand News, shut down after over 200 Hong Kong police officers raided its offices on Wednesday, seizing boxes of evidence and computers and arresting current and former staff members. The Hong Kong government says they were arrested for, quote, conspiracy to publish seditious publications. Around 6 a.m. Hong Kong time, police officers turning up at the home of Deputy Assignment Editor of Stand News, Ronson Chan. Chan is also chair of the Hong Kong Journalists Association. He was taken away for questioning and later released. Chan told media that police seized his electronic devices, bank cards and press card.
Stand News has been doing professional reporting. There's no doubt about it. The whole world sees it. It doesn't matter what charges has been made. Nothing can change the fact that Stand News does professional reporting.
Media reported that 4 former board members were arrested, including pop star Denise Ho, a vocal supporter of the democracy movement. Here, she's speaking in 2019.
We are all in danger in Hong Kong because we are on the edge of becoming just another China city where we would lose all our freedom of speech, freedom of protest.
Former lawmaker Margaret Ng was also among those arrested. Meanwhile, a senior Hong Kong police officer called the raids a success. This latest move comes as authorities continue to crack down on dissent in Hong Kong. Police earlier this year raided offices of the Apple Daily newspaper after authorities accused it of breaching Beijing's national security law. It shut down after its assets were frozen. The newspaper's former publisher, Jimmy Lai, was charged with sedition on Tuesday. It also follows the recent removal of a statue from a Hong Kong university, which was made in memory of the victims of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Several rights groups condemned the raid on Wednesday, with the executive director at Washington-based Hong Kong Democracy Council saying in a statement, "By branding the exercise of press freedom as sedition, Beijing is making clear that the regime doesn't tolerate truth-telling in Hong Kong." Jane Warrell, NTD News.
Coming up, a French legal expert says the vaccine mandate in France violates dozens of international and European laws. He questions whether there's bias in the media's reporting of COVID-19 and vaccines that supports the government's pandemic measures. And close theaters or keep them open? Belgium seems to have a hard time making that choice. That and more on NTD News. France reported more than 200,000 COVID-19 cases over the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, other data suggests the situation isn't as bleak as it seems. NTD's David Vivez spoke with a legal analyst who says the way COVID data is reported on seems to be biased toward implementing a vaccine mandate.
France is seeing a tidal wave of COVID-19 infections, with 208,000 cases reported over the past 24 hours. That's a new national and European record, according to French Health Minister Olivier Véran. Véran told lawmakers on Wednesday the situation in hospitals was already worrying because of the Delta variant, with Omicron yet to have an impact.
We face two enemies. We are familiar with the first enemy, it's the Delta variant, with an increasing wave. Then we have the second enemy, which is the Omicron variant.
Following the surge in cases, the French government implemented new pandemic measures on Monday, such as limiting the size of public gatherings and a mandatory work-from-home order for 3 days a week. But some question the efficacy of the vaccine, which isn't clear from the official data. Though currently 77% of French are fully vaccinated. The number of people dying from COVID-19 is about 170 on average this week, compared to more than 300 during the same week last year. But according to legal expert Marc Gauthier, the way data is reported by the media makes the situation seem worse than it is and shows a bias towards a vaccine mandate.
Media outlets report case numbers, which is normal, but we are scaring people with these numbers. I have here official data released by the government. The technical report from the agency monitoring hospitalizations. It says only 2.3% of patients are hospitalized because of COVID-19.
Gauthier also says a vaccine mandate is illegal and goes against laws protecting people's rights.
Let me give you an example of how much this is breaking the law. The vaccine mandate violates all of these laws and decrees. To summarize, the government forces, step by step, the population into an illegal situation. There are international and European decrees protecting human rights, saying you can't force the population to get an injection of a product you don't know much about.
The French government wants to implement a series of vaccine measures in the new year, including converting the country's health pass into a vaccine pass. The proposal will be reviewed by the Senate and National Assembly on January 15th. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Theaters in Belgium are reopening. The government reversed course today after they unexpectedly shut down theaters last week.
Theaters and concert venues will be allowed to operate with a maximum capacity of 200 people at a time. Guests have to wear masks and show proof of either COVID-19 vaccination, a negative test, or recent recovery from the illness. Other indoor venues, such as casinos and bowling alleys, will remain closed. The Belgian government decided last week to close theaters while allowing bars, restaurants, gyms, and other indoor sports venues to continue as before. People in the cultural sector said they were being unfairly targeted by the rules. Belgium, home to NATO headquarters, has seen infections fall since a late November peak, but Omicron cases are rapidly rising. Belgium has recorded around 880 COVID cases per 100,000 people over the last 2 weeks.
Coming up, a rare 15th century tapestry that went missing for 400 years is on display in Britain. It's undergone 4 years of conservation work by experts to restore its former glory. And an oyster farm in southern France comes up with a clever idea to help police track down oyster thieves. Other oyster farmers adopt the effective method. More on that in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and my pillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on my pillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 My Pillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
A rare 15th century tapestry that went missing for 400 years is on display in Somerset. The Tournai tapestry is oldest owned by the National Trust and has undergone 4 years of conservation work by experts to restore its former glory. NTD's Neil Woodrow brings us more on this.
The Tournai tapestry from 1480 depicts a knight in armour. It has taken experts nearly 1,300 hours of work to strengthen it and bring out its vivid colours. The elegantly decorated horse against a detailed background of 1000 fleurs or 1,000 flowers has been enhanced. Sonia Rogers from the National Trust says it's an important cultural artefact.
A lot of tapestries that date from early times are very floral, they have biblical scenes, but this is the last remaining tapestry that has a knight on horseback as its main theme.
The knight is shown with the coat of arms of Jean de Déon, a nobleman and friend of King Louis VI of France. Déon commissioned the tapestry in 1477. National Trust conservator Yoko Hanegrieve says it needed extra care and attention.
In a survey in the early 2010s, it showed that the tapestry had become grey from soiling. It was becoming structurally weak. The process of conserving a tapestry is quite a lengthy one because there's many different processes, from preparing to cleaning to doing the stitch treatment and then getting it lined and back into the property. So overall, the work we did in the studio took one person roughly 1.5 years full time.
Although large, the tapestry is known to have been just one piece of a set, 20 times bigger and measuring over 300 square meters. Mystery surrounds the tapestry when it went missing for 400 years. In 1920, this piece appeared at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. It has been displayed at Montacute House in Somerset since 1951 and can be viewed by the public from January the 7th. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
After thieves stole more than 3 tons of oysters from a French shellfish farmer, he came up with a clever solution, planting secret notes inside oyster shells to help police track the thieves. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Since Christophe Guinaud put the method in place in 2016 on his farm sites in southern France, he says there have been no new oyster thefts on his farm.
It has had a dissuasive effect, and I am more interested in a dissuasive approach than a repressive one. The system is efficient on every level. I think that over the past 5 to 6 years, there has been no new oyster thefts and no complaint filed.
Guinaud farms oysters in a coastal lagoon near France's border with Spain. Thieves take a boat out to the cages and steal them from the water. So Guinaud takes an empty oyster shell, inserts a tiny rolled up note, glues the shell back together, and drops it into the cage.
I put traps in a net or two in each farm site, otherwise it will be too much work to search through nets for a rigged oyster. So there's 2 nets containing traps per site, and I'm the only one who knows where I put them, of course.
The note informs whoever opens the oyster shell that they have won their own weight in oysters. Anyone claiming their prize will be asked where they bought the oysters. If it was not from somewhere that Guinaud supplies, he will know the oysters were stolen.
Thanks to the mandatory tracking of our shellfish, I will be able to find that rude person, whether he or she is a sea professional or not, who will have sold my oysters to a wholesaler, who will have then sold them to a fishmonger.
He can then alert the police to track down the thieves. Fellow producers from the area followed his example. Oyster thefts in the area have gone down from 19 incidents reported in the region in 2017 to 9 in 2018, 6 in 2019, and none in 2020, according to French Interior Ministry figures. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
2021 proved a tremendous year for space exploration, zero-gravity research, and new milestones. But which of its many projects will the year be remembered for? Let's rewind for a look at the most outrageous giant leaps mankind made this year.
Back in January, a team of researchers simulated life on the moon, spending 2 weeks in isolation at a base in Poland. The study examined pandemic quarantines and social restrictions and their effects on human health. The month also took gourmet research to new heights. Wine that spent a year in space came back to Earth, tasting, smelling, and looking different. 12 bottles of an exclusive vintage were sent to the International Space Station, along with hundreds of grapevines. A month later, the European Space Agency put up a Help Wanted sign, its first in 11 years. The month of April celebrated a milestone anniversary, 60 years since Air Force pilot Yuri Gagarin became the first human being in space. He took the Soviet Union's own giant leap for mankind and spurred the U.S. to race for the moon. April also saw a loss for the space community, the death of Apollo 11 astronaut Michael Collins. His family said he died from cancer at age 90. Collins was part of the 3-man crew that ended the space race with Russia and fulfilled President John F. Kennedy's challenge to reach the moon by the end of the 1960s. Collins never set foot on the lunar surface like his crewmates Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong.
I was always asked, wasn't I the loneliest person in the whole lonely history of the whole lonely solar system when I was by myself in that lonely orbit? And the answer was no.
In May, the European Space Agency presented Project Moonlight. The effort would send satellites in orbit around the moon and help the ESA offer communications and navigation services to any country planning lunar exploration missions.
It will help us pave the way for mission to Mars and beyond. And it will allow us more sustainable space exploration in the future.
1 month later, China's first crewed mission in 5 years took to the stars. The Shenzhou 12 spaceship sent a 3-man crew to its new space station. The UAE voiced its extraplanetary ambitions in July. Selected candidates to become Emirati astronauts included the Arab world's first female astronaut.
The feeling of achieving your dreams is very gratifying, and I also feel a huge commitment and a sense of how important this is for the UAE.
At the same time, billionaire Richard Branson hurtled into space aboard his own winged rocket ship. His Virgin Galactic Space Tourism Company reached an altitude of 53.5 miles over the New Mexico desert, high enough for weightlessness and witnessing the curvature of the Earth.
To the next generation of dreamers, if we can do this, just imagine what you can do.
The launch beat Branson's far richer rival, Jeff Bezos, by just 9 days. That's when Bezos blasted into space on his rocket company's first manned flight. Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket soared on the 52nd anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing.
We're going to build a road to space so that our kids and their kids can build the future. And we need to do that. We need to do that to solve the problems here on Earth.
September saw the Barbie world reach the stars during a zero-gravity flight. Toy maker Mattel asked the European Space Agency to take its Samantha Cristoforetti astronaut doll up on a parabolic flight to mark World Space Week. The mission set to inspire young girls to take up careers in the space industry.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Yes, that's exactly what we want, right? Look at Legos. How many girls get to play with dolls that are astronauts? How inspirational is that?
A Russian film crew rocked into space in October to make the world's first movie in orbit. They spent 12 days filming scenes for a feature-length production. Their journey closely followed that of another film icon, Star Trek's Captain Kirk, played by 90-year-old actor William Shatner. Boldly went where no man has gone before, reaching the final frontier aboard a ship built by Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin company.
What you have given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened.
And closing out the year, NASA selected 10 new astronauts in December. The space agency introduced the 6 men and 4 women during a ceremony in Houston. And on top of that, Japanese billionaire Yusaka Maezawa and his producer Yozo Hirano boarded the International Space Station. It's the first visit by self-paying space tourists to the orbiting outpost since 2009, while the trip's price tag hasn't been disclosed.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.